Alright guys, I actually wrote this here lawsuit right here the day that I got the final dismissal of the... any rate, I wrote this lawsuit the day I got the final dismissal on the final charge. Okay, and I did it without any learning, any reading, or any of that. I just did it on what I thought was common sense, based on the same way if you got arrested by the city police, because I know how that goes. But let me tell y'all something. With the state police and state entity, it's totally different, totally different. You cannot sue the state under the 11th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So in order to keep from triggering an immediate dismissal based on sovereign immunity, I had to do a lot of changes in what I had written, okay? Now, I had sent them a letter of demand, okay? So y'all can understand some of the changes I made. This here's the letter of demand that I sent them. Y'all see I got UTMB police officer, UTMB, okay? And then right here for $5,728, they could settle it. But they're probably letting their attorneys read this and letting Department of Legal Affairs read it, because they're saying I'm naming UTMB in the lawsuit, that it's going to be an automatic dismissal based on sovereign immunity. You can't name the state. You got to sue the officers individual. Okay, but I'm gonna have to send this to them anyway, because the postal lady up there, the same one that Amagan Set Press made feel uncomfortable at the Bob Lyons post office. Well, I took this in there. I had it addressed correctly to the address to what I looked up for their address being, okay? 404 8th Street, 775555. And I went in there and this lady said, no sir, this here is the street address. It's not university property. It's not their postal system. You got to put this zip code. And she changed the zip code on one of them, which then I said, no ma'am. Okay, and then she gave me attitude, but she left the rest of them. Listen guys, I got 3 of them back within 48 hours. It was delivered the next day. The one that she changed the zip code on, I still have not received back. I mailed these on December 22nd, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and mail the actual lawsuit to defendant Officer McGee Powell with the changes, and I'm going to send amended complaint with the changes to all the defendants and let them see. And I might extend the deadline to January 26th, because I plan on filing this before February 6th, okay? I don't care. But notice I'm listed in all the officers' official and personal capacity. They're being sued in their official and personal capacity. As soon as you put that in there, this here is going to trigger an automatic dismissal based on sovereign immunity. So they're looking at my letter of demand and they're saying, oh, this guy don't know what he's doing. Let him file his suit, because this is what's going to happen. It's just going to cost him money. Then we'll put our attorney fees back on him, okay? But like I said, I've been doing a lot of reading, okay? So based on everything I've been learning, I have changed up the original complaint here and demand for jury trial, okay? I'm still worried that it'll trigger, but I got arguments that I can use if they try to dismiss it based on sovereign immunity, because I am not naming the state at all. I'm naming Police Officer McGee Powell in her personal capacity only. Police Officer Zamino AA in his personal capacity only, and Police Supervisor Hernandez A in his personal capacity only, okay? Now let's proofread this here together. Okay, complaint and demand for jury trial. Now comes plaintiff Bobby J. Kennedy, hereinafter Mr. Kennedy, and plaintiff Linda K. Vine, hereinafter Miss Vine, brings this complaint against defendant Police Officer McGee Powell, C, badge number 444408. Herein is Officer McGee Powell in her personal capacity. Defendant Police Officer Zamino AA, badge 4626. Herein is Officer Zamino in his personal capacity. Defendant Police Officer Supervisor Hernandez A, badge 467049. Herein is Officer Hernandez in his personal capacity and in support thereof alleges the following upon information and belief. Now let me stop there for a second. Y'all can tell me down in the comments, should I add in here as well in her personal capacity only, the word only. Under parties I did so, okay? Under parties I did so. Okay, but let's go on now. Y'all leave me in the comments, should I put the word only right there? Okay, jurisdiction and venue. This is a civil rights action in which plaintiff seeks relief for the violation of his and hers rights secured by Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 9, Article 1, Section 19 to the Texas State Constitution and amendments 1st, 4th, and 14th to the United States Constitution. Okay, jurisdiction of this court is found upon 28 U.S. Code, Section 1331, since this action arises under the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Venue is proper in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas under 28 U.S.C., Section 1391B, as all the events complained of occurred in Galveston County, Texas. Pursuant to 42 U.S. Code, Section 1983, and other applicable laws, the court may award nominal, compensatory, and punitive damages as well as equitable relief against all defendants in their individual capacity for the violation of the plaintiff's constitutional rights and harm caused by their actions or inactions. Okay, now let me pause here for a minute for you guys. 1983, I also had, pursuant to U.S. Code Section 1985, okay? Then that one there, I had every element, and even the one, okay, there's one element in it in order to keep that from being dismissed. You have to prove that you're part of the violation occurred against the individual as part of a ethnically protected group, okay? Now I could say my wife ethnically protected because at the time she's technically disabled, so it could fall under ADA, but rather than sit there and have to deal with the chance of triggering an immediate dismissal, I went on ahead and removed that from this case, okay? So I'm just doing under Code 1983, okay? Now the parties. Plaintiff Bobby Joe Kennedy, herein known as Mr. Kennedy, is a law-abiding citizen of the United States, a longtime homeowner with a homestead in the city of Galveston, county of Galveston, state of Texas. Plaintiff Linda K. Bine, herein known as Miss Bine, is the wife to plaintiff Mr. Kennedy for over 38 years. She is a hard-working, law-abiding citizen and is the shared longtime homeowner in Galveston with a homestead shared with her husband, plaintiff Mr. Kennedy. Location of services, the Texas State Police, UTMB Galveston Post, known herein as UTMB Police Department, located at 404 8th Street, Galveston, Texas 77555, and or Department of Legal Affairs, UTMB Galveston, 301 University Boulevard, Galveston, Texas 77555. Now, because I've mentioned them, they might try to say, well, he's trying to include us in as defendants in the lawsuit. I am not. This is location of service, okay? I do not have these officers' personal home addresses, nor do I wish to obtain them. So the best way for me to serve them is at their place of employment, which is the UTMB Police Department located at 404 8th Street. And the Department of Legal Affairs of UTMB Galveston at 301 University Boulevard, in case they are no longer employed by UTMB Police Department, they will have to see to it that they are served. That's their duty under the law. There's a rule, I've already looked it up, I got notes on it, okay? So as soon as I'll be filing this, I'll be filing all kinds of motions for every step that I'm going to anticipate them to take. Now, well, I'll be writing every motion, okay? For every step I anticipate them to make, but I will be filing motions for discovery, motions to compel, motions for sanctions. I will be doing a lot of this good stuff right away, okay? But I digress, okay? Now, again, that's dislocation of service. Now, defendant Officer McGee Powell, C, badge 4408, herein is Officer McGee Powell, is a ranking state police officer employed by the UTMB Galveston Police Department located at 404 8th Street in the city of Galveston, state of Texas, 77555. who at all times herein was acting under color of law. Defendant Officer Camille Powell is being sued in her personal capacity only. Okay, I did add the word only here, and again, y'all can leave it in the comments should I add it above as well. Okay, defendant Zamino AA badge 484626. Herein is Officer Zamino is a state police officer employed by the UTMB Galveston Police Department located at 404 8th Street in the city of Galveston, who at all times herein was acting under color of law. Defendant Officer Zamino is being sued in her personal capacity only. Defendant Officer Hernandez, A, badge 467049. Herein, Officer Hernandez is supervisory state police officer employed by the UTMB Galveston Police Department, located at 404 8th Street in the city of Galveston, state of Texas, 77555, who at all times herein was acting under color of law. Defendant Officer Hernandez is being sued in his personal capacity only. Each and all the acts of the defendants alleged herein were committed by said defendants while they are acting under the color of law. At all times relevant, defendants acted under color of the statutes, ordinances, regulations, customs, and usages of the state of Texas. All acts committed by these defendants were committed by the defendants despite their knowledge that the acts they were committing are unlawful, unethical, and unconstitutional. They committed them anyway, knowingly, recklessly, intentionally, wantonly, callously, purposely, sadistically, and cruelly. Preamble. If there is a bedrock principle underlying in the First Amendment, it is that the government may not prohibit the expression of an ideal simply because society finds the ideal or expression to be offensive or disagreeable. Justice William Brenham, Texas v. Johnson, 1989. We consider this case against the background of profound national commitment that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasant, sharp attacks on government and public officials. Justin William Brenham, New York Times, Company versus Sullivan, 1964. Okay, actual facts, allegations, official press, and malicious prosecution, retaliatory to arrest, kidnapping, and assault. Okay, let me grab me a drink real quick. Okay, on October 4th, 2024, in the private exam room hallway of the urology department at the UHC clinics located on the 5th floor in John Sealy Hospital of the UTMB Galveston campus, defendant Officer McGee Powell did in fact unlawfully and intentionally assault plaintiff Mr. Kennedy with the threat of violence of arrest for nothing more than speaking in a strong, deep voice by stating, "If you do not lower your voice, I am going to arrest you," clearly violating plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's God-given right to even speak in his natural tone of voice, violating plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's right to free speech. On October 4th, 2024, in the private exam room of the urology department at the UHC clinics located on the 5th floor in John Sealy Hospital of the UTMB Galveston campus, defendant Officer McGee Powell did in fact unlawfully and intentionally trespass against plaintiff Mr. Kennedy and plaintiff Miss Vine by entering into the private exam room itself without being asked to do so by an attending nurse or doctor to enter it, and after being asked not to enter by the plaintiff Mr. Kennedy himself. Then defendant Officer McGee further trespassed against plaintiff Miss Vine by going over to where the nurse was taking plaintiff Miss Vine's vitals and entering them into the medical record on the computer screen, with the defendant Officer McGee Powell standing in a position to and reading the screen and unlawfully obtaining all of Miss Vine's personal identifying and medical information, violating Miss Vine's... Okay, so let me stop right here. See right here, I'm going to go ahead and add this right here. Plaintiff. There we are, I'm down there. Plaintiff Vine's right to be secure in her person, papers, and effects while unlawfully intruding on a private medical encounter. Okay, that is, okay, important right here. While unlawfully intruding on a private medical encounter. This is what McGee Powell made sure she did. Ran over there, looking on the computer screen, had her body cam right on that screen. Taking all this information, unlawfully identifying us is what she was trying to do, okay? After the gross trespass and rights violations up to this point by defendant Officer McGee Powell, plaintiff Mr. Kennedy became agitated and exercised the First Amendment right and redressed by telling defendant Officer McGee Powell, F you. You're just a clown in a clown suit. At this time, Officer McGee Powell, again for a second count, assaulted Mr. Kennedy with the threat of the violence of arrest for Mr. Kennedy observing his First Amendment right of redress, now violating Mr. Kennedy's right to be secure in his person. Now, I didn't write it in here, but at this time she also asked me for my ID, and I told her, no, I ain't committed no crime, you cannot have it. And again, I probably told her, F you understand, because that pissed me off really bad when she told me that I can't even talk in my own normal tone of voice when I have been provoked in such a horrible way, okay? Me and my wife are both victims of UTMB, and in a way to where once this medical record is introduced in the records because they think they got me with the HIPAA violations, well, I got news for them. I'm fixing to subpoena those medical records, and I got the HIPAA, the rules of the HIPAA, I got notes made to where they're going to have to release it. And because the police brought that into the police report, I can bring that into the trial before it's over with. Okay, but I digress, okay? Okay, I told her, you're just a clown in a suit. This time I can be up for a second count, threaten me with arrest. With the escalation between plaintiff Mr. Kennedy and defendant Officer McGee Powell, Officer McGee Powell suggested to the plaintiff Mr. Kennedy could leave by stating, you can leave. At what time the plaintiff Mr. Kennedy said to plaintiff Miss Bond, come on, let's go. At what time both plaintiffs, Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Bond, began leaving under their own free will. While walking down the hallway of the private exam room area not completely open to the public, plaintiff Mr. Kennedy seen urologist Dr. Joseph Sunstein. So plaintiff Mr. Kennedy stepped through the open door of the completely open by a complete wall of windows with no blinds, with no privacy expected, to shake the doctor's hand and apprise the doctor of the current situation and the need to reset. At what time Mr. Kennedy had already entered the completely open room, Mr. Kennedy heard the unlawful order barked by defendant Officer Zamino, no, don't you go over there, violating Mr. Kennedy's right to freely express himself. At what time Mr. Kennedy yelled at the officer, F you, I'm shaking the man's hand. At what time, for a third count, defendant Officer McGee Powell assaulted plaintiff Mr. Kennedy with the threat of the violence of this time being placed in cuffs. At what time backup or additional officers arrived on the floor? At what time defendant Officer McGee Powell proceeded to violate plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's constitutional God-given rights by placing plaintiff Mr. Kennedy in cuffs out of retaliation for plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's exercising his First Amendment right and the redress he gave to defendant Officer McGee Powell. At this time, plaintiff Mr. Kennedy informed defendant Officer McGee Powell he was there on legitimate business, an appointment with his wife, whom he is the sole caregiver and advocate for, and he was not trespassing. What defendant Officer McGee Powell was now accusing plaintiff Mr. Kennedy of. Custody of plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was handed off to defendant State Police Sergeant Supervisor Hernandez, 467046, and plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was escorted out of sight of plaintiff Ms. Vine as defendant Officer McGee Powell returned to where defendant Officer Zamino now had plaintiff Ms. Vine unlawfully detained. At this time, defendant Officer McGee Powell unlawfully took plaintiff Ms. Vine by her wrist, hand, now physically assaulting and unlawfully ordering plaintiff Ms. Vine back to the exam room so the doctor who plaintiff Ms. Vine is deathly afraid of due to a botched surgery and a bad bedside manner, Dr. Joseph Sunstein, can examine plaintiff Ms. Vine without her husband caregiver advocate being present. While unlawfully attempting to physically force plaintiff Ms. Vine to do as told, now actually physically assaulting with unlawful and unwanted touching. Now violating plaintiff Ms. Vine's right to feel secure in her person, her right to due process of a caregiver advocate of her choice being present, and her right to refuse or pick and choose medical care, 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. At this time, defendant Officer Zamino unlawfully physically assaulted plaintiff Ms. Vine by unlawfully taking plaintiff Ms. Vine's free wrist, hand, and assisting defendant Officer McGee Powell in attempting to unlawfully physically force plaintiff Ms. Vine back to the exam room. So the doctor who plaintiff Miss Vine is deathly afraid of due to a botched surgery and had a bad bedside manner can examine her with her husband caregiver advocate without her husband caregiver advocate being present, while unlawfully attempting to physically force plaintiff Miss Vine to do as told, violating plaintiff Miss Vine's right to feel secure in her person, plaintiff Miss Vine's right to due process of a caregiver advocate of the choice being present, and her right to refuse to pick and choose medical care, 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. After plaintiff Miss Vine successfully resisted the unlawful physical assault by defendant officer McGee Powell and defendant officer Zarmino, and was ordered off property and was escorted out of the building, then off property, while continued to be very disruptive by using profanity and insults to the officers such as "you effing pigs," defendant officer McGee Powell rejoined defendant sergeant officer Hernandez and assisting officer Gonzalez G. Badge 297213, witnessed by body cam only, not a named defendant, in the staging area at the edge of the driveway exit on Harborside Drive where they had plaintiff Mr. Kennedy detained. Now, Officer Gonzalez, that guy pulled up while I was being searched, okay. This freaking Hernandez, he's been trying to be kind of rough with me, trying to scare me, man. You know, he wasn't scaring me, you know, because motherfucker, you can kill me, man. I mean, that's all you can do. The only thing you scare me with is because you're going to try to take me back into UTMB for treatment. I 100% refuse to allow them to touch me. They will not touch me. I will die first. Make no mistake. Before I voluntarily allow UTMB Galveston to treat me, I will put my pistol to the back of my skull in an upward angle and make sure I damage all 4 quadrants of the brain. There's no way I will let them touch me. But I digress again. Okay, this here officer here, Gonzalez, he pulled up after the fact, and he was really, I mean, if he was arresting you, man, I mean, you really wouldn't have no problem. I wouldn't, you know, if they would have acted like him, I'd have no problems at all. Okay? Okay. Now. Okay. At this time, Defendant Officer McGee Powell told Defendant Officer Sergeant Hernandez plaintiff Mr. Kennedy is under arrest. Defendant Officer McGee Powell then turns to plaintiff Mr. Kennedy and informs him that he is under arrest for trespassing. Once again, at this time, plaintiff Mr. Kennedy informed Defendant Officer McGee Powell that both Detective Collins with the UTMB Police Department and the lead investigator for the Galveston County District Attorney David Simon, at the time a trespass warning was issued over the phone, both informed plaintiff Mr. Kennedy could not be arrested for trespassing and plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was to be there on legitimate business. An appointment for his wife would be legitimate business. At what time Defendant Officer McGee Powell said no. You are going to jail. She is the patient, not you. At what time plaintiff Mr. Kennedy informed Defendant Officer McGee Powell, again while in direct presence of Defendant Officer McGee Powell's direct supervisor, Defendant Sergeant Hernandez, okay, you will be sued. That was my exact words to her, okay? I told her again, I said, listen, when Detective Collins called me on the phone and he gave me this here trespass warning just for bogus lies, okay? Bogus lies, he's not a big deal, okay? He was real cool. I have no problems with Detective Collins. He's a really good dude, okay? But, he talked to me on the phone. He said, listen, I'm a police officer, man, and you know what, my job is to protect everybody, you and them. So listen, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you a trespass warning to appease this nurse that's at home. She came to my house, man, out of the blue. Linda got out the hospital like 6 o'clock in the evening. We got home, finally got to actually go to sleep about 1 o'clock in the morning. She's really hurt real bad. Got a laparotomy incision that's really horrible, real bad. And this nurse shows up like at 6 o'clock in the morning and forced her way through the door past me. talking about, I'm home health care, I'm here, I just got the order. And while she was here, she started naming off a whole bunch of the videos I made, like a choking hazard, you know, some of the derelict of duty of these nurses of today, because our healthcare system has went to crap. Trust me, I spent a lot of time in the hospitals 30 years ago, and I spent a lot of time in the hospital just a year or two ago with my wife. I could tell y'all, the bar has been lowered horribly, horribly, okay? But at any rate, out of retaliation to try to cause me problems, she was doing everything she could. She called and told a bunch of lies to this detective, I guess Detective Collins, okay? So after that, I went to David Simon's house, okay? I know David Simon, he knows me for years. Years, man, okay? So I went to his house and told him what was going on. They both told me the same thing. As long as I was there with an appointment with my wife, David actually conferred with Detective Collins. They talked with each other, and it was late the next day after I seen David. He did the investigation. He talked with all the police, all the detectives, and then he called me on the phone and said, as long as I'm there with a legitimate reason, and an appointment with my wife is a legitimate reason. So I told this to this cop at least 5 times, okay? And I told her in front of a direct supervisor the last time, you know, I'm not trespassing. I'm here on legitimate business with my wife. Even Detective Collins and David Simon, the lead investigator for the district attorney's office, told me if I'm here on an appointment with my wife, I'm not trespassing. She said, nope. She's the patient, not you. You're going to jail. I said, okay, you will be sued. My exact words, okay? So, yeah, I mean, the supervisor, and guess what? Yeah, that's right. I'm looking for your qualified immunity to be revoked as well. 100% McGee Powell, hers is gone. The supervisor, I'm sure, going to try real hard. And poor old Zermino, well, because of what she did to my wife where she participated, oh yeah, I'm going to try for hers too. Okay, it is what it is. Okay. At this time, Defendant Supervisory Officer Hernandez further violated Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy by continuing with an unlawful retaliatory arrest for hearing Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy explain to Defendant Officer. After hearing Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy explain to Defendant Officer McGee Powell legitimate business. Was conducting, and the legal reason he could not be arrested for trespassing at this time. Okay, right now, before I go any further, let me go ahead and do this. Do this. Okay. Now, at this time in public view, Defendant Supervisory Officer Hernandez further humiliated and assaulted Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy by unlawfully, extensively, and roughly searching Mr. Kennedy, while kicking Mr. Kennedy's already old, weak, injured ankles, legs, and knees, while giving orders and commands in an aggressive manner, causing Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy to fear for his safety. With Mr. Kennedy being put at ease only by the demeanor and manner of professionalism of assisting Officer Gonzalez. Remember what I told y'all about Officer Gonzalez? Okay? Witnessed by body cam only, not a named defendant, who politely asked for voluntary compliance of the same commands Defendant Officer Hernandez was given aggressively and disrespectfully. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. If Officer Gonzalez would have been up there, I doubt I would have ever got mad. I don't think he would have ever told me he's going to throw me in jail for speaking in my normal tone of voice. I think the dude would have used some psychology on me and got me to act like I was in a library, man. I'm telling you, man, the dude, man, Officer Gonzalez, man, that dude is a good cop, okay? He was really good, man. I'm believing he's the one. I mean, yeah, the rest of them I know pretty well. The Zermino, Powell, and the fucking Supervisor Hernandez, I ain't never going to forget them. There was only one other one that I actually talked to at the scene. Now, after the scene, the lady that transported me to the jail, you know what? She's really cool, too. She's an old grandma, man. Yeah, she's an old grandma, man. I kind of fell in love with her. The one that transferred me to the jail, but I digress, okay? But Officer Gonzalez right there, man, this guy right here deserves, man, if he would have been on the floor, if he would have been the one that responded instead of that piece of shit McGee Powell, I bet you I would have never told nobody, fuck you or nothing else. I would have said, all right, man, listen, man. You know, they can't tell me I can't speak my own normal tone of voice, man. This is how I talk. I do my best, man, okay? I do my best. But understand, at the same time, yes, I'm emotional right now because everything that has taken place up to this day, it's been horrible, horrible. Okay? But Officer Gonzalez, man, yeah. I ain't never going to forget how you sat there and asked, man, and I was willing to comply, man. He actually, I mean, he was actually asking me respectfully to please voluntarily comply with these here commands because this supervisor right here is an asshole. This is basically what I was getting from him, man. This guy's a jerk and he's wanting to hurt you. So please, man, for all of us, man, don't, just please, man, just please. This is what he was telling me. Yeah, Officer Gonzalez, I like that one. Okay, so I digress again. Sorry about that. After transport to the UTMB Police Headquarters located at 448 Street in the city of Galveston, Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was once again extensively and roughly searched by Defendant Supervisory Officer Hernandez, while Defendant Officer Hernandez displayed a hostile, aggressive attitude and demeanor, once again causing Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy to feel unsafe in his person, while restricting Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's free movement. While being held at UTMB Police Headquarters located at 448 Street for over an hour, Defendant Officer McGee Powell reappeared, and in the presence of Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy, after consulting with her supervisor, Defendant Sergeant Officer Hernandez, Defendant Officer McGee Powell made a phone call back to the UTMB UHC 5th Floor Clinic. After the fact, unlawfully and maliciously using her cell phone, solicited a complaint statement from one Etsy Megan Elise asking for a statement of disorderly conduct, claiming she was offended by the language used by Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy towards the police in her presence. Now understand me, they did this in my presence, okay? This cop had me handcuffed sitting in the freaking office. He put a body cam on the desk facing me. Him and her went out in the hallway, had their little consultation, and then from there, she walked over where I could see her, got on the cell phone and called back and asked for the complaint. I watched the whole thing, okay? Yeah. Here not only knowingly and maliciously violating Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's First Amendment right once again, but also knowingly and maliciously violating Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's 14th Amendment right to due process. Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy, Plaintiff Miss Bynes' sole caregiver, was then transferred to the Galveston County Jail, arriving at the jail around 11:35 a.m., where Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was maliciously charged with trespass in order to intentionally and maliciously further the detainment of Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy by denying Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy a bond until what time Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy could see a magistrate for a bond hearing to set a bond amount, causing Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy to not physically walk out of the Galveston County Jail complex until about 4:35 a.m. on October 5th, 2024 for a credit of 2 days in custody, okay? I get a credit of 2 days, regardless of how many hours, I get a credit of 2 days, 24 hours a day, because it spanned over 2 calendar days. I went in on one calendar day, and I came out on the next calendar day. So both days was gone, and I get a credit for both days of 48 hours, and the going rate is anywhere between the lowest is $100 per hour, the maximum is $1,000 an hour per plaintiff, okay? So y'all gonna see where I got all this calculated at the end of this, okay? Now, the unlawful retaliatory arrest and charges now cause Plaintiff Miss Bynes extreme panic, violating Plaintiff Miss Bynes' 4th Amendment right to feel safe in her person. For the entire time, Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was in custody, due to the fact Plaintiff Mr. Kennedy was the sole caregiver caring for Miss Bynes' unique ostomy wound. created by the emergency exploratory laparotomy as a result of the botched surgery of the same doctor, urologist Dr. Joseph Sunstein, Defendant Officer McGee Powell, and Defendant Officer Zamino, are now attempted to unlawfully physically force plaintiff Miss Bond back to sea without plaintiff Mr. Kennedy, Miss Bond's husband, caregiver applicant, being present, causing plaintiff Miss Bond even more trauma. Also at this time, plaintiff Miss Bond's 14th Amendment right to due process, the fact plaintiff Mr. Kennedy's sole role as a caregiver being crucial can be verified by the letter from Houston Colorectal Surgery Group, the providers who assumed plaintiff Miss Bond's care after the unlawful malicious retaliatory arrest of plaintiff Mr. Kennedy, by Defendant Officer McGee Powell, Defendant Supervisory Officer Hernandez, and Defendant Officer Zamino on October 4, 2024. The malicious charge of criminal trespass was set to be heard by County Court of Law Number 1, Galveston County, Texas, under case number MD-04209999. After an initial pretrial meeting with the prosecutor on December 19, 2024, the case came to be heard on February 6, 2025, at what time said charge of criminal trespass was dismissed due to a lack of evidence. This was dismissed with no attorney, and it was dismissed pro se. Okay? Now, the unlawful charge of disorderly conduct by language. In the Justice of the Peace Court, let me just go ahead and add that. Look, by language was charged in the Justice of the Peace Court of Galveston County Precinct 2 under case number 24 NTM 020925. This case was dismissed on May 29, 2025 with the reason cited as prosecutorial discretion. Now, this case, I fought this for several months. I filed several motions pro se. But this court right here, they kept sending me a letter telling me just plead guilty and pay $393 for the fine because that's just the way it is. I was guilty of disorderly conduct by language because I told a police officer, F you. No, absolutely not. Y'all can look at the motions that I filed online. You go to that case right there. It's all part of the public record. And y'all read the motion to dismiss that Judge Blake Apfel denied in open court. Okay? This here, Ted Moore, the prosecutor, wanted to have a motion for, or a hearing for my motion for discovery. He wanted to deny me all my evidence, said the only evidence I need is the police report against me. The police report's one big lie. Okay? I fought this for 6 months pro se. On the day when Ted Moore decided he wanted to have a motions hearing to deny me my motion for discovery, okay? Oh, he wanted to have the motion to dismiss denied too, which the judge right away, this has nothing to do with the First Amendment. You read that motion to dismiss and you'll know it 100% does. You'll know they violated my rights. They violated clearly established law because they got judicial immunity and they know it. And the JP court in Galveston is crooked, and that's why the Galveston PD wants to move the municipal court cases, traffic citations to the JP court too. Okay, that's also why McGee Powell made sure to file unlawful fictitious charge of disorderly conduct, knowing I wasn't guilty. Okay, in the JP court. Okay, but on that day for that hearing, I seen a lawyer friend I knew out in the fucking hallway, and I said, "Look here, I pulled $5,000 of cash out of my pocket." I said, "Man, if they don't dismiss this shit today, I'm fixing to hire me a lawyer. I'm going to show them the money in there and tell them I'm going to hire a lawyer. I'm done with y'all. Okay? There's going to be damages." And she said, "Let me read what you got." She read what I got. She said, "You want me to argue it for you?" I said, "Well, go ahead. They've had plenty of time to read it. They should know what it is." Turns out, they're some cheating ass bastards. But she wasn't going to argue. She just said she knows me personally, and I talk loud. And the judge said, if you ain't got nothing to add for this case, then you need to add nothing. And I said, hold on. I said, Your Honor, can I add something? Because I'm sitting there with 10 case laws that are almost identical to my case. I'm the one that wrote all these motions pro se. So I said, Your Honor, can I say something? I had not yet hired this woman. She's just up there pro bono. The judge says, no. You hired you a lawyer. You sit there and you shut your mouth. So I said, okay, whatever, and I sat down. Okay, so the judge looked down and he did a quick glance over my motion to dismiss. And he seen what I had in there, First Amendment. He said, First Amendment, this ain't got nothing to do with the First Amendment. I'm denying your motion to dismiss. Okay? At that time, Prosecutor Ted Moore looked at that lawyer that was up there pro bono, and he tells her, he said, I'll send you what you need. We have no reason to argue motion for discovery. I'll send you the police report. Okay? Well, she sat with me that night for about 2 hours, and I handed her $3,000 because we was anticipating a jury trial. Now, she read everything I wrote. She read all the case laws that I wrote, that I was sitting in there with, and she said, yeah, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. She read the police report. She said, well, right here, the police brought medical care into us, so yep, we can argue medical records. They got to give them to us. Yep, that's right, you damn Skippy. So she called the prosecutor the next morning and told him, Ted Morris, she said, I'm going to need Mr. Kennedy's motion for discovery as written. You got to send it all to me. And she had a little conversation with him, and he said, you know what, I'm just going to dismiss this. He dismissed it because I already had it beat pro bono, but they was going to screw me because I did not know the law, the rules of engagement. Now, I'm learning the rules of engagement here with this, but make no mistake, after it goes so far, I'm going to sit in that courtroom and the best mouthpiece I see working in there, I'm going to walk over to him and I got to tell him I got $5,000 here for a retainer. I don't give a fuck what I can recover damages or not. I just want the judgments, okay? I need help with this jury trial. And I can do all the legwork. I just need somebody a little bit smarter than me to help me. Here's $5,000. I don't care whether I recover damages or not. All I want is the judgment. It's the point of it. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop here with this right here. The unlawful factitious. Okay, let's do factitious. Let's see if that's it. It's going to give me the right spelling for it. We're going to call this here okay, we're going to call this here part 1 because this video is getting to be kind of long. We'll start part 2 on number 37, the 5 elements of malicious prosecution. Okay, with that, guys, I'll see y'all on part 2.